merupakan objek pengamatan yang sangat bermanfaat bagi studi kebahasaan dan proses pembelajaran. Bapak, Ibu-ibu, serta seminar nasional yang kami hormati, demikian yang dapat saya sampaikan. Sekali lagi, selamat mengikuti seminar nasional dengan tema Corpus Linguistics for English Teaching. Kurang lebihnya mohon maaf. Demikian, billahi taufik wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mohon dibuka secara resmi, Pak Dekan.
Dengan membaca Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Seminar Nasional Corpus Linguistics for Language Teaching dinyatakan dibuka secara resmi.
Terima kasih. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, before we come to our main program, please allow me to invite Associate Professor Zaul Milal to lead the prayer. For Associate Professor Zaul Milal, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Allahumma ighfir lil mu'minina wal mu'minat wal muslimina wal muslimat al ahya'i minhum wal amwat innaka sami'un qaribun mujibud da'wat ya qadiyal hajat. Allahumma anfa'na bima 'allamtana wa 'allimna ma yanfa'una warzuqna ilman yanfa'una. Rabbana zidna ilman nafi'an warzuqna fahma. Rabbana hablana min azwajina wa dzurriyyatina qurrata a'yun waj'alna lil muttaqina imama. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzabannar. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you, Associate Professor Zaul Milal. Before we continue to the next program, I would like to welcome our invited speaker, Mr. Pihantaro. Welcome to this Zoom meeting held by English Department of UI Nasional Ampel. I do hope that you will have a good time joining us. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, before I hand over the program to the moderator, let's have a brief photo session for Ms. Tristi. Will you please help us with the photo session?
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Sufi. Good morning, everyone. Please turn on your cameras because we're going to have a photo session. We are having 7 slides here, so please hold your smiles for about 5 minutes or so. Okay, I'm going to check for a while. Okay, I'm going to start from the first slide. Please smile. 1, 2, 3. The second slide. Okay, please smile. 1, 2, 3. The next slide, the third slide. There's no one who turns on their camera, but it's okay, I think. Okay, 1, 2, 3. The next slide. 1, 2, 3. The next slide, the fifth slide. 1, 2, 3. The next slide. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to the last slide. 1, 2, 3. Okay, Alhamdulillah, the photo session is over. I'm going to give the stage back to Mrs. Sufi.
Thank you, Ms. Tristi. I hope you are not too tired for holding your smile. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now please join me in welcoming our moderator today, Ms. Kenia Alitsapti M. She is a professional translator and interpreter who also actively teach in Universitas Airlangga. And to close this opening ceremony, I would like to wish you a very great day and hope you enjoy the seminar. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yeah, thank you, Bu Sufi. That's a very warm welcome. Yeah, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Bapak and Ibu. Ya, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wabihi nasta'inu ala murdunya waddin. Allahumma sholli ala Muhammad sayyidil mursalina wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa tabi'ina ila yaumiddin. La ilaha illallah wahdahu la syarikalah lahul mulku wa lahul hamdu wa huwa ala kulli syai'in qadir. Rabbi sholli sadri wa yassirli amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli birahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. La haula wala quwwata illa billahil aliyil azim. Alhamdulillah, hello everyone. Welcome to today's virtual national seminar. Ahlan wa sahlan. Thank you all for spending some time with us today. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am Kenia. And right now, I am assisting you all throughout this beneficial national seminar. I'm very pleased to see you all here, and thank you for finding time and visiting this national seminar held by English Department of Faculty of Arts and Humanities, UIN Sunan Ampel, Surabaya, in collaboration with TEFLIN, the Association for the Teaching of English as a Foreign Language in Indonesia of East Java. TEFLIN is one of the leading associations in Indonesia. For those of you just joining us, welcome to this virtual national seminar on Corpus Linguistics for Language Teaching 2021 as our topic today. So please allow me to introduce our first speaker, Professor Yazid Bastomi from Universitas Negeri Malang. Hello, Professor Yazid. Yeah, and the second speaker, Bapak Suhandoko, MPD from UIN Sunan Ampel, Surabaya. And then the third speaker, Bapak Prihantoro, PhD from Universitas Diponegoro, Semarang. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, before we start, I would like to explain how you could talk to us during this national seminar. To prevent irrelevant chats during a Zoom meeting, the chat box is disabled. So to ask questions, participants will be provided with two modes, either by first typing questions in the chat box. If you have any questions during the presentation, just please write them to chat box. The participants, however, can still send text messages to me as the moderator, especially to ask for information related to the national seminar. I will forward the questions to the speakers to read during the seminar. The questions should follow the format: your name, hyphen your institution, hyphen your question. Or the second mode, that is by raising hand when I invite the participants to ask questions directly. Participants are required to complete the attendance form. The attendance form will be posted by the committee at about 10:30. So only confirmed attendees will be awarded certificate. Yeah, we will not have any short breaks during a presentation. Q&A session will be opened at the end of all speaker session to answer your questions. To provide clear agenda to you, we will send you all the relevant links after the event, including a link to the national seminar recording. For those of you just joining us, welcome to this virtual national seminar. Okay, so Bapak and Ibu, rahimakumullah, before the presentation begins, let's know the regulation, how it will be going on. Firstly, I would like to give the time to Professor Yazid Bastomi to present the material for maximum 45 minutes, followed by the second speaker, Bapak Suhandoko MPD, and the third speaker, Bapak Prihantoro PhD, to deliver the presentations for about 45 minutes respectively. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, rahimakumullah. Now it is time for the first speaker, Professor Yazid Bastomi, who is a faculty member at the Department of English, Faculty of Letter, Universitas Negeri Malang, Indonesia. He was a Fulbrighter. He spent a stint of a pre-doctoral research at the English Language Institute, University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, USA. His educational backgrounds and research interests have led him to work in the area of applied linguistics, leading to his professorship. In addition to his tenure in the alma mater, he was also once appointed adjunct lecturer at the University of New England, Australia, with the main job of co-supervising a PhD thesis writing. In 2019, he was a visiting professor at Linnaeus University, Sweden, sponsored by Erasmus+. Since recently, he has also been co-supervising 2 PhD students at Charles Darwin University, Australia. Hello, Professor Yazid. Assalamualaikum. How are you, sir?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm good, Bu Kenya.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Yeah, you look fresh, Mr. Yazid. Yeah. Yeah, it's still early in the morning, yes? Okay, so...
Yeah. I just took a bath.
Yeah. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, please allow Professor Yazid to present his topic, context-free and context-bound linguistics research, methodological implications. So please, Professor Yazid, maximum 45 minutes is yours.
Thank you, Bu Kenya.
You're welcome, sir.
Nice. For the nice introduction. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa ala la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Allahumma kshif qalbi min al-ghafla wa alimni ma lam akun a'lam bayyana bima sa'alu'an ya man la ilaha illa hu la ma'buda siwa. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and allow me to share my PPT. Well, I'm going to be in Indonesian. I think we call it pupuk bawang. I don't know how to translate that. I think Bu Kenya knows how to translate that. Pupuk bawang. Is it going to be garlic fertilizer? I think once I read a translation of that word, I mean, pupuk bawang, into garlic fertilizer. That sounds funny. Okay. Well, allow me to congratulate Pak Prihantoro for his success in defending the PhD. So he is fresh from the oven as a PhD holder from Lancaster University, I think. Yeah, Lancaster University or Manchester, Lancaster, I think. Okay, so you will get the real materials from twin hands, Pak Prihantoro and Pak Suhandoko. So you will have twin hands here. I'm going to be the pupuk bawang. Okay, because pupuk bawang needs to be laid early, so I will be the first to make a presentation. This is going to be really, really basic, and it's going to be a kind of overview of your knowledge about research methodology, particularly in the area of linguistics. And allow me to share my PPT. Hopefully you can hear me well there. Can you, hang on. I think I made a mistake. Okay. Hopefully it appears there. Corpus Linguistics for Language Teachers. Is that clear on your screen, Ibu Bapak?
Yes, it's quite clear, Mr. Yazid.
My goodness, we've got the tryout session actually, and it worked. And now it stops. I don't know how to make it work. Let me try again. If I fail, then what I can do is that I have to share my PPT without without slideshow or without reading view. So it's going to be manual. And hopefully if it is manual, it works. If I still fail, somebody needs to help me with the presentation of my PPT. I mean, with the sharing my PPT. Let me try once again. Hopefully it works. Does it appear on your screen? Is it
Yes,
too
sir.
small? Okay.
Yes, it appears.
But once again, it fails to move to the next slide. Somebody please
Okay.
help me with, okay, now it's working, I guess. Okay, let's try to have this kind of overview. So in the area of linguistics, we are familiar with context-free and context-bound. It can be context-free and context-bound linguistics. It can be context-free and context-bound linguistic research. And we need to be familiar with the potential methodological implications. So what is context-free linguistics? I believe everybody is familiar with that. If not, well, you can close your eyes and try to make a short meditation and hopefully something creeping into your mind. And then you have the pangsit, if not wangsit, about what is meant by context-free linguistics. Well, in general, we can think of Chomsky as the leading figure in the area of context-free linguistics. Well, basically, people agree on the idea that context-free linguistics is focused on syntax. And when we talk about syntax, usually actually we don't need to think about the context in order to understand the mechanism, how the sentence works at the syntactic level. And that is, I guess, the focus of Chomskyan linguistics. And we are going to talk about the possible methodological implications in the context of our discussion this morning. And then what about context-bound linguistics? I believe everybody is also familiar with that. So that is about linguistics, which is, I mean, the study of linguistic phenomena and the understanding of these phenomena are really based on the context. Without the context, then to some extent, to a great extent, we fail to understand the linguistic mechanism of how language works. So what are the possible methodological implications for research? Anybody would like to raise the hand to answer this question? Okay. And I think it's related to this, how we work about data and context-free linguistics research. In other words, do we need to collect data from the field when we talk about context-free linguistic research? Ibu Bapak? Does linguistics sound intimidating to you, Ibu Bapak? So when we talk about context-free linguistics, do we need to collect data from the field? No answer. Kenya, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, I believe so, sir. Since implications for linguistic research, yeah, it should be specified and it should also be justified. So how we need to put the linguistic corpus or the corpora too should be addressed. And why addressing that is something uncertainty if we don't look over the data, is it?
Okay, yeah, thank you for the answer. But it seems to me that your answer is like a jump start actually, because the question is still about context-free linguistics research. Okay, thanks anyway for the answer. We are going to come to that point. So no, actually, we may just rely on our own introspective data. So in the area of context-free linguistics, well, the linguists are armchair linguists. They may sit still in their chair, in their office, in their library, probably, in the laboratory, probably. So if we have a question like this, why can we use swear or dirty words probably in our context? And then we try to answer this question by providing logical argumentation, etc., etc. So the logic here will be at the forefront, and the data can be used to justify our logic, of course. But the forefront here is the logic. I mean, yeah, the logical argumentation is put at the forefront, and that to some extent that's different from context-bound linguistics. We are going to come to that point. So how do we work about data in context-bound linguistic research? In other words, do we need to collect data from the field? And I think Bukenia has already answered that question. So the answer by Bukenia fits this question, but not the first question about context-free linguistic research. So yes, and data from the field may mean data from physically real fields. So if you go, for instance, to deep down in Papua, for instance, to collect linguistic information from certain communities in Papua, that's what we mean by physically real field. And the data may also mean data from laboratory. Probably you manage a laboratory, say psycholinguistic laboratory, and then you collect data in your laboratory, and then you may have interviews with the subject, etc., and then you may record the linguistic data, and that will be empirical. I mean, yeah, like the data from the field, and the field here may mean laboratory. And then the next issue can be data from computer managed linguistic data, and that is also, I mean, in my own understanding, that also has to do with the field-based linguistic data. So that relates to context-bound linguistics. So bingo. So Corpus Linguistics deals with the linguistic data that's about managed using a computer or computers. So it depends on whether you work alone or you work in collaboration with other researchers, then you may use more than one computers in this context. A small caveat, Ibu Bapak. So with regard to research reports, it can be in a form of thesis, it can be in a form of articles. Context-free linguistic research usually does not present a subheading of method or methodology. And context-bound linguistic research usually presents it. So it's a matter of what you call convention, but of course this convention has some kind of logical basis, but it can be in a form of what do you call tendency in this case. So if you read, for instance, Chomskyan way of how to write article, probably you don't find any information about subheading on method or methodology. Okay, let me just move on. As noted earlier, context-bound linguistic research usually presents a section on method or methodology. Thus, in general, the research report takes IMRED or IMRED-C format. So we need to be a bit familiar with this, or it's just a kind of review of your knowledge thus far. Okay, now how about articles in our field? How about research in our field? How about research reports in our field? Well, I guess our research, our articles, our research reports usually are in a form of empirical research. That is my own answer. So mostly empirical or non-empirical. I guess in my own, in our area as language teachers or foreign language teachers, then our research tends to be empirical. So in that sense, then the tendency in terms of the format, then we take IMRED or IMRED-C format, because we are dealing with empirical data, and usually information about how we collect the data, how we analyze the data, from whom or from what sources the data are collected, are made clear under our subsection of method or methodology. And that can be different from context-free linguistics research, or context-free linguistics report, linguistics research report, or context-free linguistic articles. Okay, let me just press on. And when we talk about corpus linguistics, mainly we are talking about the M, actually, which stands for method or methodology. Most of the time, I guess, when we talk about corpus linguistics, basically we are talking about this aspect particularly. even though we may refer to corpus linguistics as approach, some people may refer to this as methodology, some people may refer to this as what we call technique, and some people may look at corpus linguistics as a branch of linguistics. Some others, when they refer to this as technique, then in any branch of linguistics nowadays, they also make use of corpus linguistics technique or approach or whatever, particularly with the development of technology. And then many things are digitized. And when we talk about corpus linguistics nowadays, then we always talk about it in terms of digitization. And you will have more information about this with the presentation of Pak Handoko and also Pak Prihantoro. The M method we are talking about is particularly about data collection and data analysis. Thus, in general, we are talking about data management in this case. Particularly, it's about that. And the question can be, how does corpus linguistics deal with your job, our job as language teachers, particularly foreign language teachers, and more particular English language teachers in the context of Indonesia? Well, the answers can be unlimited in number, but in my own case, I've been concerned with, cultivating, with attempts to cultivate and instill comparative outlook in my students. And I think to some extent I've been successful with that. I mean, I can show my pride with that. Yeah, my knowledge based on my research, little amount of research in the corpus linguistics has provided me with knowledge related to comparative outlook here. And I think students also need to have comparative outlook, particularly those who are Indonesians. And because we are, learning English as a foreign language, then, foreign language also has its own culture. And the language can be the carrier of the cultural norms, cultural, it can be the customs and any other things. Then I think because we are Indonesians and we are learning English, we are teaching English as well, then we need to be concerned with comparative outlook here. And to my experience, based on my experience, then corpus linguistics also provides me with this kind of comparative outlook. I mean, the advancement, the development of comparative outlook, and it can be induced, it can be transferred, it can be transform into our teaching so that our students can also learn and also cultivate their comparative outlook. And to me, that is quite important. Why? Okay, since we are dealing with language, in this case of foreign language, we are also dealing with culture, as I said before, and we have culture which is different from that of the native speakers of language. Now, this simple example, whether we can use then, whether we can use to, whether we can use from. Most of the time, I guess, in most cases, most of the time, Indonesian students usually would say different with. And I guess that is also cultural in a sense. We may also talk about transfer in this case, or interference in this case, from our first language, our mother tongue, and to some extent there's also cultural. Okay, does it matter? Well, let me give you this example. I think most of you have been familiar with this example. So expressions of expectation, hollow or unsupported expectations. Okay, so I've got that concern in my context. I've got a kind of, intuitive impression that Indonesian students tend to express, or Indonesian people in general, tend to express expectations. And in the academic context, the tendency is also there in my observations. I mean, based on my observations as a thesis supervisor, it can be undergraduate thesis, it can be master's thesis, it can be doctoral thesis or dissertations in the Indonesian context. Then I've got the impression that Indonesian students tend to also express expectations. And because of this intuitive impression, then I try to look for evidentiality in this case. I tried to look for pieces of evidence whether my intuition is right or not. And I tried to collect some written linguistic data written in English by Indonesian students in the context of Universitas Negeri Malang. And I also tried to, we work together with my team to collect data from written text written in Bahasa Indonesia. So we've got Sismail, Corpus of Study Universitas Malang, Indonesian Learners English, and Cinta, Corpus of Indonesian Texts in Academia. Well, I tried to relate this to, because I believe if you are in love, cinta, then you also sometimes you smile uncontrollably, probably because of your happiness, because you have cinta. So Sismail and Cinta are interrelated in terms of the names, I guess. Okay. So, okay, in Sismail, we've got a collection of around 7 million words, and in Cinta, we've got that 2 point something words, I mean, in million. And then, based on our analysis, we found this information, the tendency of Indonesian people to express expectations. And unfortunately, based on my understanding, our understanding, my understanding, we can categorize the expressions of the expectations into two. So we've got these categories: support-based expectations or support-based expectations or justified expectations, and hollow expectations or unsupport-based expectations. We tried to calculate based on our data in Sismail and Cinta. We've got 128 in Sismail, support-based expectations. And in Cinta, we've got 400 something. And try to compare with hollow expectations or unsupport-based expectations. We've got bigger number of hollow expectation or unsupport-based expectations. In other words, we tend to have that expression of expectations. In other words, our expectations tend to be not justified based on, at least based on our data in our corpora, Sismail and Cinta. Let me just give you this example. Therefore, the findings of this study did not support the theory from both Hamada and Kuramoto, blah, blah, blah. The teacher was expected to include the steps of reading and shadowing, blah, blah, blah. And there is an example of support-based expectation. And according to KTSP, the purpose of teaching English, blah, 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 and then successful language learners are expected to have good fluency in speaking of the target language. What we mean by support-based here is that the expression of the expectation has some kind of immediate pretext for the expectation to be expressed. If you don't have immediate pretext, then we categorize that into unsupport-based expectation. And this is the example of unsupported expectation or unsupport-based expectation. This study is expected to be beneficial for the textbook writers to write better quality textbook. Probably, if you look at the bigger picture as the pretext, probably you have some kind of support, but it's not immediate to this expression. So that's why we categorize this into unsupported or hollow expectation. And probably you can also judge this as a kind of expectation which is based on general knowledge. If you don't carry out a particular research leading to this expression of expectation, then you may also express this. So that's why this is like a hollow expectation. I still remember once I watched a video related to, what do you call that? That relates to the policy of the government. Unfortunately, I don't have it now, but I still remember I heard the expression of expectations quite a lot. Diharapkan, 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 something like that. And we also tried to have some kind of comparison. Data from Sismail, data from MyCAS from the University of Michigan, particularly hosted by managed by English Language Institute of the University of Michigan at Ann Arbor. And we also try to compare with BAWE. But Prihantoro once several weeks ago mentioned that BAWE is managed by Coventry University, if I'm not mistaken. So try to check there. We try to check the frequency of the use of the word expect and hope. These two, we believe, express our expectations. Support base, you've got the number there. Hello, you've got the number there, bigger, and see smile. About hope, that's also true. Hello is bigger in number. But if you look at the corpus by native speakers of English, or mostly, if not native speakers, the corpus has been built within the context of the use of English as mother tongue in the context of the United States and the context of England, or United Kingdom in general. So you've got the figure there. Try to compare the use of expect, support base, bigger in number, hello, low in number. Support base, bigger, at my cusp, and hello, smaller. That is in reverse compared to C Smile, which is the corpus of English text by Indonesian students. So in general, my impression is that I feel that many of the students' expectations in the academic texts are actually not expected. Because when we're talking about academic text, we are talking about evidentiality, actually. And the academic text here are mostly relate to research report. When we talk about research, we talk about evidentiality. If we express our expectations, which are not actually based on data or logic, which are immediately presented close to the expressions of expectations, then our expectations tend to sound hollow. Whereas when we talk about academic texts, we need to express our arguments, and the arguments should be based on evidence or based on logics or whatever. So in that case, then academic texts are supposed to be filled with justification. If it is hollow, then it lowers down the quality of the academicness of the texts. So that's why I've got this impression. Probably next, the question is about what is corpus, and I think Pak Handoko and Pak Prihantoro will talk about this in more detail. I don't know whether I still have the time or not, but Kenya?
Yes, sir. You still have almost 13 minutes.
13 minutes, okay.
Yes.
So we can talk
your
about
time.
this in just in passing. So probably some of the audiences have not been really familiar with this probably, but I believe most of you have been quite familiar with this. So basically a corpus refers to linguistic data or data bank, but of course with some kind of criteria. And Pak Handoko and Pak Pri will also touch on that issue about the criteria for the data, linguistic data, to be included as a corpus or into a corpus or corpora. Corpora is the plural of the word corpus. In the past, corpus was not necessarily digitized, but along with the technological advancement these days, when we talk about corpus, well, we always refer to digitized linguistic data. And digitization here means easy for storage and easy for retrieval for analysis. And hang on, I've got a blockage. So the two main issues in corpus linguistics are corpus building and corpus analysis. And of course, sub categorizations may also appear under corpus building and also corpus analysis. I mean, some detailed technicalities may appear there, and people like Pak Handoko and Pak Prihantoro are the ones having the expertise related to this. I don't have that kind of expertise. I'm not going to talk about that. So corpus analysis can be carried out using independent software if the corpus builder does not provide inherent software. If you look at kokan, for instance, hosted by Brigham Young University in Utah, in the United States, well, if you try to get access to the data in the corpus, then you will find the software already in operation, integrated with the data. But some other corpus, some other corpora are not necessarily linked with the software. So on some occasions, we need to use independent software, not inherent software. So basically, that is what I can share with you. So as a pupuk bawang, so my information is not that complete, and more detailed information can be listened to when Pak Suhandoko and Pak Prihantoro make presentation. Over back to you, Bu Kenia. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Professor Yazid, for giving such an informative and interesting presentation. The two main issues, as Prof. Yazid presented in Corpus Linguistics, are corpus building and corpus analysis. And then Corpus Linguistics has made a wealth of frequency information available to language teachers too. And this information can play an important role in helping teachers to decide what is more or less important in a language classroom, depending on what is known to be more or less typical in actual language use. Yes, Prof. Yazid. And what I could summarize a little bit is about, from Professor Yazid's explanation, that how corpus evidence from linguistic research contemplates in the use of, and also to address teachers' questions about English grammar, and suggests that corpus linguistics has an important role to play in raising the awareness of linguistic features and patterns, and then how practicing teachers and teachers in training can learn a great deal from corpus-based studies. Yes. Well, in fact, owe it to their students to share the insights into language use that corpus linguistics provides. All right, thank you, Professor Yazid. Now, I would like to start the second presentation addressed by Bapak Suhandoko, MPD, for the next 45 minutes. Yes, Bapak Suhandoko is a lecturer at the English Department, Faculty of Arts and Humanities, UIN Sunan Ampel, Surabaya. He completed his bachelor's in STKI PPGRI Jombang in 2011. He completed his bachelor's degree, in 2015, yeah, sorry. In 2015, Mr. Suhandoko was awarded the scholarship by the provincial government of East Java to pursue his master's in Universitas Negeri Malang and a 3-week sandwich-like program in Semio Relk, Singapore. He completed his master's in 2017. His research interests cover sociolinguistics, pragmatics, corpus linguistics, and second language writing. Hello, Bapak Suhandoko. Assalamualaikum. How are you? Bapak Suhandoko?
Yes, I'm here, but I'm sorry. I was just cut off from the internet connection, and now I am back.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, internet connection is the key. Yes.
Yes.
It's such a bless that we have a very well-run internet connection.
Yes. Okay. What is?
Yeah. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, please allow Bapak Suhandoko to present his topic. Every student, Sherlock Holmes, making the most of data-driven learning supports to improve academic English writing. Please, Bapak Suhandoko, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Bu Kenia. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Assalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin. Sayyidina Maulana Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. La hawla wa la quwata illa billahil aliyyil azim. Rabbi shrah li wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Amin ya rabbal alamin. Thank you very much. First, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude for Bu Wahyu as the head of the English department UINSA for encouraging me to speak in this prestigious forum. Thank you very much for the invitation. And also thank you very much for my teachers, Prof. Zuliati and Prof. Utami of Teflin. And thank you also for allowing me to share my experience about using Corpus Linguistics in language teaching. And also my best gratitude goes to Prof. Yazid, because Prof. Yazid is the one who introduced me first about Corpus Linguistics when I pursued my master's degree 5 years ago in UM. Thank you very much, Prof. Yazid, for giving me such an inspiration, especially using Corpus Linguistics. Okay, allow me to share my PowerPoint. Okay, can you see my PowerPoint clearly?
Yes, Pak.
Yeah, Pak.
Right, thank you very much. Today I'm going to share my experience using Corpus Linguistics in my ELT classrooms. The title of my presentation is Every Student a Sherlock Holmes, making the most of data-driven learning supports to improve academic English writing. So I used the first 5 words in my presentation title, Every Student a Sherlock Holmes. The words are actually not mine. I quoted it from Tim John, who first coined the words data-driven learning back in 1986. So I just put that into my presentation title, Every Student a Sherlock Holmes. So I used these words due to the fact that today's learning paradigm has shifted from teacher-centered into student-centered, from student as the object of learning into the student as the subject of learning, and from the teacher as knower into the teacher as facilitator. So that is the background why I use those 5 words in my presentation title. So quoting statement of Stephen Eliot and his colleagues about constructivism in English language teaching, learners actively construct or make their own knowledge determined by the experience. And usually in the concept of English language teaching or in education, we call as constructivism in education. So the central idea of the so-called constructivism in education is that learners construct meaning through active engagement with the world or society or community, any community, academic community included, and apply their cognitive problem-solving mechanism and existing knowledge, background knowledge to foster an understanding of new language data. And in relation to the use of corpora in language learning, learners are encouraged to observe the corpus data by themselves, and testing and revising the hypothesis and formulate the rules in order to get insights into the language, and interpret the clues from the context they found in the corpus. Or in this case, learners are language detectives, and therefore they become more involved, more engaged, more active, and ultimately they will become more autonomous in the learning process. So what is the relation between corpora in education? So Prof. Yazid has already presented about the definition of corpus or corpora. So it is simply word corpus is a collection of text assembled for certain linguistic purposes. And in ELT, corpus has been widely used in many linguistic activities, such as in lexicography or by the grammarian. Corpus has been used to write a grammar book, such as Longman Grammar of Spoken and Written English. In language testing, an example of corpus application is IELTS script corpus or Cambridge Learner corpus. And for materials developer or materials writers, they can start develop their materials from the corpus to help them sequence and select the appropriate materials that suit the learner's needs. And for syllabus writers, they can pick and choose the language they want to teach based on the existing corpora or we usually call it as the corpus inform or corpus-based syllabus. And of course, for lecturers or researchers, especially in the field of applied linguistics, corpus has been used widely in creating the word lists or maybe collocations and etc. And the last, for teachers and learners, they can use corpora or data-driven learning for collocations, for synonyms, for writing on academic writing, for example, by finding the word list. But today I will specifically discuss the application of DDL to learners of English, not for researchers, not for syllabus writers, but for specifically for learners. And so how the corpora relevant to English language teaching? The use of corpus contributes to language teaching in several ways, as you can see here on the diagram made by Gabriela in 2005, that the insights obtained from the corpora of native speakers contribute to a more accurate description of the language. Then it is then included into the compilation of grammar and dictionary. So that what we can have from the native speaker corpora. The learner language analysis or the learner corpora provides the insight into the needs of learners in different contexts, which in turn informs the learner's dictionary and also their English skill and grammar. Research on the learning corpora also contributes to our understanding of the language learning process, or in this case is in syllabus writing. The next is the corpora of language teaching coursebook. Yeah, it allows the examination of the language that the learners are learning. And when compared to the first language corpora, it facilitates the development of more effective learning materials. And the learner corpora at the end have the potential to contribute to the construction and evaluation of language testing in many ways. So that is how the corpus are related to ELT or English language teaching. Now I will go to the discussion on the main theme of my presentations. So what is data-driven learning? Data-driven learning is the term coined by Tim Jones in 1986, which referred to the use in the classroom of computer-generated concordance to get learners to explore the regularities or patterns in the target language. Or simply, we can say that as the method of teaching and learning language with the help of corpora. So that is the definition of data-driven learning. So the important point that I want to make about DDL is that while most language learning is teacher or textbook guided, yeah, that is what usually occurs today, the data-driven learning treats language as the data, yeah, and learners are researchers or detectives. They do the guided discovery task, yeah. So they learn from the language itself, not learning from the teacher, not learning from the textbook. So they acquire the language from the language, and of course, they need training by the teachers first. That's the most important thing. So they need training from the teachers in order they get familiar with data-driven learning operation. So what research says about data-driven learning? Empirically, several studies have proven that the use of data-driven learning in ELT classroom to be fruitful and beneficial for learners in the sense that it can expand learners' vocabulary by training learners to see the synonyms or how words are used in context. The second is the DDL also helps learners work with collocations, yeah, which is one of the key descriptors of fluent English proficiency, especially in writing. And in ELT classroom, DDL also improves the quality of learners' writing, especially in academic writing or writing for academic purpose, such as the use of reporting verbs. Usually students use according to, stays, said, based on. Those are repeatedly over from the beginning of the chapter until the end. And by using the DDL, we can provide them with some alternative about reporting verbs when they write their research paper or their thesis or their academic writing. So that is the benefits of using DDL in terms of improving learners' English proficiency, especially dealing with the vocabulary and writing. In terms of pedagogy or in education,
seperti apa ya, prinsip jurnal begitu ya. Terus yang terakhir mungkin juga ini Pak, kemarin itu ada beberapa.
Okay, thank you. So using data-driven learning in ELT classrooms, it brings the authenticity in the classroom. So as we have already known that the corpus is a collection of texts collected for a specific purpose, meaning that it is a collection of spoken or written language by both native and non-native English speaking people. So it can be said that by using the corpora, we use the authentic materials in the classroom. And the second is that DDL serves as corrective function. Learners sometimes can compare their writing with the data produced by the expert authors. For example, in their writing, students may use, for example, research say, but what the expert, what the native speaker use instead of writing research say, so they can get them in the data-driven learning or in the corpus. So they can avoid misuse and overuse and underuse in their academic writing. An interesting element that I like about using data-driven learning is the element of discovery. So in data-driven learning, learners can be described as the travelers or detectives, yeah, with the knowledge they have. They go to the data-driven learning supports, and then they predict, they analyze, they select, and they pick and choose the corpora to create the new language data. And that is what actually Tim Jones refers as every student Sherlock Holmes. So by using their prior knowledge about the language, they go to the DDL, and then they can predict, they pick and choose, they analyze, they select the word by themselves. The last is DDLs allows the acquisition of crucial learning skill in this education or industrial 5.0. The crucial learning skills such as predicting, observing, testing the hypothesis, reasoning, and analyzing are very crucial, especially in order to develop, prepare our learners to compete and collaborate well in the future globalized world. So we have talked a lot about DDL, and DDL. So what's DDL like? Yeah, so this is a kind of DDL that is provided, available on the internet, and later you can check by yourself. So this is a scale or sketch engine for language learning. It's a very simple tool for learners and teachers of English to easily check whether or how a particular phrase or word is used by real speakers of English. An example use of it, you go to the website URL and then input the word, for example, research in the search box, and then you will be provided with lots of collocations as well as the example in the sentences. So you can help students, instead of writing research found, so in this kind of DDL, you can give your students maybe new insights how the word research collocates with other words, and that's why it will make their academic writing better. This is the hyper collocation that I also like to use when I write my academic papers. It is the search engine for finding example sentences from hundred thousands of English papers in archive. So here you go to the website URL, input the word. For example, here I input the word criticize. and you will be provided with how that word collocates with other words. In this case, the highest frequency of the collocation with criticize is auxiliary of be criticized or was criticized. And when you click on that word, you will be provided with the sample of how that word is used in the context of sentences provided by the native or by the expert writers. This is what Prof. Yazid has mentioned about the corpus of contemporary academic American English, or kokan. Yeah. So kokan is actually it contains more than billion word of corpora. So it's lots of corpora provided by the kokan, and it is one of the most widely used corpora used by the academia. So you can go to the website URL and then you click on the search column and then input the text. Maybe you want to find how the word affect collocates, and then you will be shown how affect frequently occurs in the American corpora and how that word is used in the sentences. And this is Ankong. Yeah, so it is widely used, especially in the corpus analysis. And I believe that maybe most of you are familiar with this kind of software, and it gives a powerful concordancer, or maybe the word list, or distribution plot, or lexical bundle analysis. So it is very kind of useful DDL or corpora tools that we can use. So how DDL improves academic English writings. So this is the central of my presentation today, how DDL improves the academic English writing. In academic context, DDL can improve the quality of the academic writing, that corpus data seem to be more effective for reference purpose for linking adverbials compared to traditional sources. That what has been found by Bolton and Cotters in 2014. Especially dealing with grammar, DDL can help students with grammar difficulties, so they can check on the DDL how that kind of word is used in sentences, especially by the native speaker of English. It can also help generate ideas. Sometimes we lost words during our writing process. So how can I make my word more beautiful? How can I make my word more effective? So sometimes you are at loss for ideas and about especially how to express it. And surely DDL can be an alternative help for us when we are at loss during our writing process. Learners benefit also from DDL by knowing more synonyms, because usually when you click on the word, you will be provided with the synonyms of certain words, and therefore students can avoid overuse of the same word over and over on their academic papers. DDL can also improve the learners' authorical voices. Yeah. Usually students only quote the external sources into academic writing, and then they say nothing about it. They just say according to Stephen, blah, 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 and so on. Stephen said blah, 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 and so on. So there is no authorical voices. Where do they stand in that kind of information? Do they agree with that? Do they disagree with that? Are they neutral with that information? So sometimes students miss that important part in academic writing. So using DDL can improve learners' authorical voices by using the alternative reporting verbs in order to show their stance in academic writing. And the last is that DDL provides collocation suggestions, which is very beneficial for students, especially to improve the fluency of the ideas in writing. So there are a lot of area we can work with DDL or data-driven learning. We can work with synonyms, we can work with the antonyms, we can work with lexical development or the grammar, or maybe the one that I will focus today is about the collocation. So according to Lewis, so what is collocation? Collocation is words which are statistically, I will emphasize the word statistically, much more likely to appear together than random chance suggests. So that's the meaning of collocations. Let's take a look at this comparison between the collocation of light increase and slight increase. So both of them are actually a collocation that we can find in used by native speakers of English. So in BAWE that Prof. Yazid has mentioned, and also Pak Pri has typed on the chat box about an example of corpus is British Academic Written English, or BAWE. In BAWE, or British Academic Written English, we can find light plus increase once. And we can find slight increase 18 times in academic papers, meaning that when students want to use what collocates with the word increase, they can use slight increase because it is more frequently used by the speakers, especially the British. Yeah, and the use of collocation slight and increase is much stronger, shown by the log dice score. Log dice means a statistic measure for identifying the collocation. The higher the score, the stronger the collocation is. So the log dice score for slight increase is 8.7 and slight increase is 4.4. So although both collocations are okay in English, but we strongly encourage students to use the more frequently used, because by using the more frequently used collocation, the ideas in their writing will be more fluent. Yeah. So what research says again about the collocations and foreign language learning? So although numerous researchers have proven that the importance of collocations, especially for academic writing, collocations are mostly difficult for most second language learners because the knowledge of collocation is not the same as the knowledge of phrase construction. Yeah, phrase construction, they can create phrase from two separate words. Yeah, they can be creative with that, but not with the collocations. The knowledge of collocations, meaning that we are encouraged to use the more frequently used collocation for more fluent writing in English. And that's why collocations are sometimes neglected and also difficult for most language learners. And also, this is much worse, yeah, because learners often underestimate the difference between the receptive and productive knowledge. They think that when they understand a word, they will be confident that they can use them well. That's not what happened. Yeah, because sometimes learners tend to identify vocabulary learning with the acquisition of new words. Once they acquire new words, and then they are satisfied. That's it. But they fail to pay attention that collocational relationships is also very important, especially dealing with the spoken and written language. So the acquisition of new words is not enough. They must also know how to use that word, especially how to use collocations in their English. And the last is the difference occur in L1 and L2 language. Yeah. In Indonesia, we usually ask the children, sudah bikin PR-nya? Yeah. Sudah bikin PR-nya is a kind of collocation in Bahasa Indonesia, but we do not say, have you made the homework? Yeah. We do not say that, but have you done the homework? So that's the difference of collocation between L1 and L2. Sometimes you also say, saya sudah merapikan tempat tidur. In English, we say that I have made the bed. So that's the collocation that we use for saya sudah merapikan tempat tidur. But sometimes our learners say, I have tidied my bed. Yeah, that's not correct. That's not incorrect. That's correct, but it's not frequently used, especially by the native speakers. So the differences between the collocation in L1 and L2 sometimes problematic for second language learners. And how collocations impact on the academic writing? Before we go to that question, I would like you to look at these two sentences. Yeah. Such symptoms usually improve significantly after amalgam removal, and such symptoms usually improve much after amalgam removal. So which do you think between these two sentences are easier to read? The first or the second? Yeah. So
The second.
the second,
Is that?
yeah, the second, oh, yeah, the second maybe improve much, but that is not the case when we use in academic writing, because the word improve significantly for academic writers are more frequently used, yeah, because improve much and improve significantly both are correct as a collocation, but the one highlighted in yellow is possibly more sensible and also much easier to read, especially in academic contexts. That's why a collocation is read as a single chunk rather than byword. Yeah, single chunk, not improve and significantly, but improve significantly is it's read by a chunk, not improve and much. Improve much is not really frequently used in academic writing. So improve significantly is much easier to use and read in academic writing. Yeah. So how collocation impacts on the academic writing? And so the first is about native-like fluency. The more students are exposed and learn about the use of collocation, they may have a native-like fluency proficiency. And also the clarity of fluency of written ideas. Learners can show the lexical development skills by showing a variety of words and collocation. So the ideas in writing may become clear and much fluent. And of course, the fluent and clear idea when writing, it will contribute to a higher writing scores. Yeah, and this is also one of the most important thing, especially for researchers or students in academic writing. In highly reputable journals, less fluent manuscripts are highly rejected. That's why how collocation is impact a lot in academic writing. Well, so collocation can be support. Collocation can be frightening for students, perhaps, can be a scourge for students, perhaps. And fortunately, we have lots of supports for them to learn and to use the collocation. One of them is a textbook or grammar of collocation. And the second is by using the tools of collocation. And I would risk saying that this kind of textbooks and grammar are hands-off collocation, and these online supports available on the internet is a hands-on supports. It's merely because hands-off means that the tools already provide you with the help and you are not directly involved with the collocation. So the grammar and the book already provide the collocation. So you can just, okay, you look at the grammar and then you find the book and then you will find the collocation, but not with the hands-on support. This kind of tools, you are actively involved in making analysis, which word collocates with which word, and whether this is effective, whether this is appropriate, and you need to make decisions how a word collocates with other and use them in your writing. So it's a kind of hands-on collocation supports. But yeah, nothing is flawless. For the hands-off collocations, the quality is much better. Yeah, the quality is much better, but the coverage is very limited. Why do I say that the quality is much better? Because they are assembled by the expert, and also you can find the definition of certain words provided by the grammar or the textbook. But the coverage is very limited, yeah, because it is impossible for the writer to provide millions of collocation in a single book. Yeah, that's why the coverage is very limited. But for the hands-on collocations, the quality is a little bit, it's good, but sometimes you will find irrelevant collocations because the collocations are contributed by the authors, not only by the native, but also by the non-native English speakers. So sometimes the collocations are irrelevant, and learners must be strategic and savvy enough to decide which collocation that may be appropriate with their needs. But the coverage a lot. It's the coverage is abundant, yeah, because there are maybe about millions of papers, thousands of contributors for providing with the collocation, and that's why the coverage are abundant for the hands-on collocations. Yes. So okay, so what are the collocation support that may benefit the second language learners in their academic writing? So I will this time I will share my experience using with one of the collocation supports available on the internet. Actually, I use two. Actually, I use Sketch Engine for language learners in my class, and also using Collocate. But today I will share my experience in using Collocate with learners in the essay writing course that I am assigned this semester. So this is the interface of Collocate, which I think pretty user-friendly, especially if you are familiar with the Microsoft Word or OpenOffice. It's kind of similar. So I don't think that learners will get difficulty with this kind of interface. There are some kind of menu, for example, file edit, insert view, format table, help, and collocate is, and also alignment and also numbering. So it's similar to Microsoft Word. So I think it's very easy to use, especially by the learners. So you can go to the collocate.uk to register first, and then you can try it with your learners in your classroom, especially in your writing class. So in the editor box, you can input the sentence or perhaps paragraph. In this case, I give you the example of the advantage. So I just type the words the advantage. And make sure the suggest collocation button is active. And that's why during your writing, you are automatically provided with suggested collocations. Yeah. And you can see the word advantage here is underlined, which means that this collocation supports has alternative suggestions for your learners. So when you click on the word, you will be provided with the options here, how you will treat the word advantage, whether you will treat the advantage with verb plus advantage, or adjective plus advantage, or advantage plus preposition. So that depends on the needs of the learners during their writing. And for example, here I use I need to find what adjective that best collocate with the word advantage. So I click on the adjective plus. So these are the alternatives suggested by the collocate. So we can have selective advantage, mutual advantage, potential advantage, and so on and so on and so on. You can also click on more button here to give student learners more options with the collocations. So there are lots of it, the considerable advantage, unique advantage, and so on and so on. Yeah, for example, here I choose the word consider strategic advantage. So I just double click on the word, and then the word advantage on the editor box will automatically change into the strategic advantage. So I think this is very helpful for the students, especially during their writing process, helping them with the collocations. This is an example of the students writing before and after using collocate. So I asked them to screenshot their work. Actually, this is a smart student. Yeah, this is a very good student, especially in writing. Yeah, I just encourage him to use this kind of collocation supports. And although there are not much difference, but I think that the writing improved with the use of the collocation. In this case, is by using the collocate. So how can we bring collocate into the classroom? Of course, the first that the trainers need to train the teachers, because not all teachers are digital native, or we can say that most teachers are digital immigrant. Yeah. And that's why trainers need to train the teachers to get them familiar with the interface, with how to strategically use these collocation supports and so on. And then once they're confident with their skill in operating this collocation support, and then they can train learners how to use these collocation supports. And that is all. This is the reference. I think that's my presentation, Bukania. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you a lot, Bapak Suhandoko, for throwing light upon us, upon the writing problems to us, such as the lexical and miscollocations, the collocation, which are commonly seen in writing, yes, and then how you contemplate DDL, a corpus-assisted language learning approach. That's considered as the advantages in solving learners' writing problems. But to ensure the effectiveness of DDL activities, a careful design should be considered. And Pak Suhandoko's study explores the potential of corpus approaches for the improvement of English for specific purposes students' academic writing skills. Well, he investigated the effects of the 3 types of data-driven learning, and then how Corpus Linguistics is primarily a learning platform, but it can also be used as a research tool to collect and analyze data about academic writing. And then what I took some notes here is about the DDL, how DDL studies vast databases of English texts, corpora with software programs, and then you can also find the concordances, yes, which isolate the common patterns in the authentic language samples, including the approach that is also drawn from the product teaching, that it provides the authentic language material for study, including how to put more abundant examples, as well as to evaluate students' perspectives towards using corpus-based activities on the academic writing learning, more precisely the lexicogrammatical abilities. Thank you again, Mr. Suhandoko. That's a short summary from me. And now, ladies and gentlemen, rahimakumullah, it is time for the third presentation. Yes, the third presentation will be brought out by Bapak Prihantoro, PhD. The name consists of 2 words, yes, Pak Pri. Yeah, I'd like to say sorry that I wrote it wrong. Yeah, I thought it was
you're correct. It's merged.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's just one word.
It's
merged.
Oh,
but
okay.
in Zoom, I have to divide it into 2 because it's not accepted. I have to have a last name, so I just applied Hantoro as my last name. So you're correct.
Okay, yeah. Thank you for the confirmation, Bapak Prihantoro. All right, so Bapak and Ibu, Bapak Prihantoro is going to present corpora data and their pedagogic applications. And then Bapak Prihantoro lives in Banyumanik, Semarang City. Is it the lower or the upper city of Semarang?
The upper.
Pak Pri. Oh, I see. This is the upper city, yes. Yeah, Bapak Prihantoro is a lecturer in Universitas Diponegoro with a 2-year experience as an academic tutor in Universitas Terbuka, South Korea branch. Bapak Pri completed his bachelor degree in linguistics from Universitas Diponegoro, and then he took his MA in linguistics from Hankook University of Foreign Studies, South Korea, and then he also took PhD in linguistics from Manchester University, United Kingdom. His research interests are corpus linguistics, natural language processing or NLP, and then computer-assisted language learning, CALL, morphosyntax, translation, discourse analysis, and pragmatics. He is affiliated to Corpus Approach to Social Science, CASS Research Center, Lancaster University, UK. And then Mr. Pri was once an organizer in University Center for Computer Corpus Research on Language, UCREL, Lancaster University, UK. Including an international research partner as an international research partner, Digital Language and Knowledge Contents Research Association, or DICORA, South Korea. And once more, the data, it is a long list of Mr. Prihantoro project, yes. Corpus Creation Project, IGNALE, International Corpus Network of Asian Learners of English, Spoken Monologue, Spoken Dialogue, Rating Completed. And then the DICORA, Digital Language and Content Research Association Sentiment Analysis Corpus completed. Another project is Tiger Project, yeah, Santimorph. That is a system analysis text Indonesia or morphology, a morphological annotation system for Indonesian text, the alpha version. And then his programming experiences are Notch in text, Unitext, Python, PHP, and R. Okay, so Mr. Prihantoro, how are you? How's the pandemic going there in Semarang?
Oh, it's getting better. Yeah, we are at level 1, I think, the lowest level of restriction.
Yeah, well, you know, COVID-19 caseloads, yeah, climb as Southeast Asia feels the force, yeah, of Delta variant. And our country is struggling to contain the wave of coronavirus infections. All right, so Bapak and Ibu, allow me to welcome Bapak Prihantoro. Yeah, please, Bapak Prihantoro, the floor is yours for the next 45 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm going to share my screen right now.
All right.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good.
I'm going to start my presentation now.
Yep.
Right, the title of my presentation is Corpora Data and their pedagogic applications. So Corpora, if you're wondering, or if you know it already, it doesn't really matter. Corpora is the plural form of corpus. So yeah, if you see corpora instead of corpuses, then yeah, that's the plural form. And then I always try to insert interactive activity in my presentation, each of my presentation, and this is the details, which I'm going to share in the relevant slide. And then if you're interested in this presentation slide, you can scan this barcode later or just click on this URL. Okay, so I talk about applications in my presentation here, but let's extend the meaning of applications from software to different stuff, okay? So applications can also mean methods. So let's say you create the methods for effective vocabulary learning. So that's also an application. Or if you create a document, it can also be called an application based on your research, okay? Now, here are some of the applications supported by Corpora data. For example, machine translation here, you can see the icon of Google Translate. Okay, so this is an application widely used and it's quite useful and it's quite fast. You just insert your target text, sorry, your input text, and Google will instantly translate it into the target language text. Okay, so what many people don't know is that Google Translate relies heavily on Corpora data, particularly Parallel Corpora. Okay, and we can talk about Parallel Corpora at some other times, but what you need to know now is that Google Translate is one of the applications or programs that is based on Corpora data. The next one is dictionary. So many dictionaries today are corpus-based, which means they are based on authentic language use. And it's pretty useful because you can examine how language is used in real life. And many of these dictionaries, their lexicographic elements are derived from corpus data. So for instance, here, we can see one of the most obvious lexicographic elements is the examples here. So Cambridge Dictionary claims that the dictionary is based on corpus data. Now, another lexicographic element that we can derive from a corpus is the frequency. So if you see the little A1 here, it's quite little, I hope it's visible to you all. A1, so A1 refers to the lowest competency scale based on CEFR. To put it simply, this is the vocabulary that you need to teach to the lowest level language learner, or the vocabulary, one of the vocabularies that they need to acquire. And this is derived from corpus data. So we don't see the frequency count here, but we know from the label here, A1, that this vocabulary is appropriate or one of the vocabularies suggested to be acquired by lowest level English language learners. Okay, and the applications can be in the form of data or document. So just in case you don't know about this, there is a book called Real Grammar. So the title is a bit provocative, I think. So people may infer that other grammars are not real. So it is very common for a title to be bombastic or metaphoric, even not realistic. Okay, but here real grammars actually refers to a corpus-based data. So this grammar book is built based on corpus data, and it's available on the market. If you want to buy it on Amazon, you can just go to the Amazon website, click on it, and you can have it delivered to your house or the location that you want. So these are some of the examples of applications supported by corporate data. Along my presentation, we are going to play a little bit with this applications, not necessarily these three, but other applications. But first, let's have a look at the definition of corpus. I think Pak Yazid, we have met in several occasions, I think, and Pak Handoko have already laid the basic definition of corpus, but I want to highlight one more time using three aspects of corpus buildings. Okay, so first, this is obligatory in all corpus, in all corpora, that the data in the corpus must be authentic. Sometimes the term natural is used, so a corpus must contain natural language data. So let's have a look at this term more closely, natural or authentic. Now, I have two sentences here. Okay, sentence number one. Things went wrong right from the moment she landed on Britain. Okay, this is sentence number one. Sentence number two, Budi go to Borobudur yesterday. Okay. So now my question to you, which one or which ones is authentic? And you can write on the chat box, just write the number. If you think sentence number one is authentic, just write one. If you think sentence number two is authentic, write two. And if you think that both are authentic, you can write 1 and 2. Okay, so I'm going to check the chat box to see if any answers. Okay, sentence number 2 from Faizatu, Istiqomah. Sentence number 2 is authentic. Okay, sentence number 2 is authentic. From Rio Nur Ahmad. Ferry Arso, number 2. Tuti, number 2. Oriza, Unita. Okay, so mostly, not most, but all of the answers refer to text number 2, sentence number 2 as the authentic. Oh, wait, from Saida. Saida answered number 1. Okay, but number 2 is still the champion. Okay. So now let's get back to the data and have a look at these two sentences. So if you see sentence number 1, this is very complex from the word choice at least. So you can see here, things went wrong, right. So wrong and right, they are not antonyms here. So wrong means incorrect, but right here might be equivalent to instantly, so not the opposite of right. Okay, and also from the syntax structure, this seems to be really complex. Not really, but this seems to be complex. Okay, So if you think sentence number 1 is authentic, you are correct. So sentence number 1 is obtained from British National Corpus, a corpus whose data is obtained from monolingual British speakers. So not only the people who contribute to this corpus are native speakers, but they are also monolingual speakers, which means they don't speak other languages. So they just speak English, okay? So sentence number 1 is authentic. And I'm going to discuss British National Corpus in a later slide. Okay. Sentence number 2, Budi go to Borobudur yesterday. Okay. If you think sentence number 2 is authentic, yeah, then you're also correct. Even though if we have a look at this sentence here, we see a lot of culture-specific vocabulary. So for example, Budi. So Budi is a very common name used in dictates, at least when in 1990s, when I was still elementary school. So there you go. You can guess my age based on that. Particularly in reading books, they trains you how to read. Okay, so Budi. And the second one is Borobudur, a proper name, location or place name, is in Indonesia. And we can also see that this sentence is grammatically incorrect. So we see Budi go if it is in the past because it's yesterday. Yeah, we see at time yesterday. The correct verb form should be went. Okay, but these can be authentic if we think about a corpus data produced by learners. So there are a wide variety of corpora data. So one corpora, the data may be obtained only from the native speakers, but other corpora, their data might be obtained from learners. And this is one of the examples of hypothetical examples, if I have to emphasize, that is obtained from learner corpus, a learner corpus. So it actually records the actual mistake produced by learners. It can be used for a variety of purposes. For researchers, of course, they can learn, they can study this corpus, identify frequent errors, and perhaps design their syllabus or teaching materials based on that information. Okay. Right. So yeah, that's about the authentic language data. One of the most important, the obligatory aspect of corpus data. The other two aspects are optional. So a corpus might be annotated, which means the corpus might have additional linguistic information. So when we talk about annotation, usually the information is linguistic, either grammatical, semantics, or vocabulary, yeah, syntax. That's why we have lemma here, part of speech, and phrase structure. Okay. And also syntactic structure, like to identify which one is the subject, which one is the object. And this can be used by researchers or corpus users to make their queries or to make their analysis more meaningful. Okay, so just imagine you want to extract all nouns from a corpus whose size is like 1 million words. If you do it manually, then it's going to take forever. Yeah, but if you have the annotation of what is speech in the corpus, you can just do it instantly. Another aspect of corpus is the metadata. So metadata is also information about the corpus data, but it's usually not linguistic information, but metalinguistic information like age, time, gender, dialect, and so on and so forth. And this is also useful. So for instance, you want to identify the difference of language used by male students and female students if you have the metadata of gender, and this will be very useful. Okay. And also, for instance, you want to study how modals are used over time. Are they decreasing or are they increasing, or they remain constant? If you have the information of time in the corpus data, yeah, then the corpus must be obtained from different time frames. Then it is really easy to extract the data. Okay. Right. So I hope I'm not doing this too fast. If you think I do this too fast, you feel free to write on the chat box, or yeah, the monitor can also just shout to me. There are some Corpus web services and query programs. These are specialized programs used to index and query the data, Corpus data. And maybe some of you have already been familiar with this. And while I'm explaining this, feel free to write on the chat box if you have, or if you're using one of these software or another corpus processing software. Okay. So for instance, if you used Lexbox or NCOG, feel free to write NCOG or Lexbox on the chat box, or another program. It doesn't really matter. Okay. So we have CKP Web here. CKP Web is a free programs. The image here is obtained from CKP Web at Lancaster University. Okay. And here, englishcorpora.org. So this web service index several corpora. So for instance, corpus of contemporary American English, corpus of historical American English, and some of Spanish corpora as well. Okay. And also Sketch Engine. So Sketch Engine is like CKP Web at Lancaster. So it hosts corpora at different languages. So if you are a user of CKP Web Lancaster, then you can find some Indonesian corpora that I index there. Okay. So those three programs are web-based, which means like you don't need anything. Well, you need computer and internet connection, of course, but you don't need to download anything. The other three programs here, Lanxbox, Ancong, and Wordsmith, they are also corpus analysis or corpus tools or corpus programs, but you need to download them to your local computer and install them to have them work. Okay, so download from the download link. You're going to get the file, installation file, install it to your computer, and then yeah, you can use it as you wish. Okay, so that's about Corpus web services and query programs. There are many other programs out there, but these are the most frequently used ones. Right, so I have two questions about love now. Okay, so let's specify that love is a noun here. So there are two questions on the screen. Yeah, and you can just write yes or no. So if you think, if your answer is yes for number one, write one and then yeah, yes, yeah, or N or Y. Okay. If your answer is no, for instance, for number two, write two and then N. So feel free to do that. So let's take 1 minute, okay, 1 minute, and write on the chat box. So let's see if we have some answers here. Number one, yes. Number two, no. Okay. From Amelia Rahmawati, thank you for your answer. From Faizatul Istiqomah, number one is no. Number two, yes. Thank you. Okay, so 20 seconds already. So let's wait for other answers. From Tuti Handayani, number one, no. Number two, yes. From Ferdi Nugroho, number one, no. Number two, yes, Frio. What does that mean? Maybe a typo, I don't know. 30 more seconds. Zu'alul Mila. Humaira, okay, Zolo says 2 of them are incorrect. No. Okay. So most of the answers believe that the answer for number 1 is no. The answer for number 2 is yes. Okay. So here is the moment of truth. These 2 questions are derived from British National Corpus. So let's corroborate these 2 questions with data from that corpus. So number 1, male says love more than female. Okay. So let's have a look at the metadata information here. So focus on this part because this is like words, the size of the data, but the frequency of love is here. Okay, so let's have a look at the female one. Female is 526 and male is 264. So yes, female use it more frequently than female. So the answer for this is no. This is incorrect based on the data from British National Corpus. Okay. Question number 2. People within the 25 to 34 age group write love more often than other age group. So these 2 questions have different modalities. So for the previous question, we use spoken data, and for this question, we use written data. And the answer is, okay, we can have a look at here. So the highest frequency is on the age group of 35 to 44. Yeah. And then, yeah, 25 to 34 is only 588, so just 500 plus. So it's like just 30%, not 30, maybe 40%, 40 something. I don't know the exact count, but it's really less than 1,000. Okay. So if your answers are incorrect for both, then yeah, congratulations. But if your answers are wrong, or if one of your answers are wrong, don't get discouraged because your answers might be correct if we use different corpus data. Okay. So there is no absolutely correct answer or there is no absolutely incorrect answers. Don't worry. That's the beauty of using corpus data. Now let's do something more pedagogic. So the title of this slide is like, I'd like to return to it. So let's focus on the contraction here. Yeah. So when we teach academic writing, well, at least me, like many years ago, the first time I teach academic writing. So one of the myths that I taught to my student is like, don't use contractions in academic writing. Okay, so it's forbidden. And like, don't use I, use the author and blah, 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 blah. Okay. But what does a corpus say about this? So there is an interesting research done by a group of researchers in Lancaster University, my university. Well, basically they are my colleagues, okay? So they compare data on British National Corpus based on 2 different time frames. So the first one is from British National Corpus, the original British National Corpus, the first version, released in 1994. So if you access this corpus, then you're going to see a section devoted to academic language. And then they do another data collection and they release it in 2014. Well, they released it just a few days ago, actually, but the project was in 2015, funded in 2015. And also there is a section on like the academic language. And they compare how differ academic language or how academic language develops over 2 different time frames. And the answer is here. So they have identified some increases in the frequency of the use of verb contractions between 1994 and 2014 for each genre of academic writing. So if you can see the academic domains here, you can see the improvements. The highest improvement, the highest increase, the dramatic increase is on the medicine domain and technology. So technology is not surprising, I think, but medicine, that's quite surprising. But in humanities and arts, the increase is not that dramatic as well as in medicine and technology. Lowest increases are examined on social science and political law and education. So there you go. So next time, if your students of academic writing use contractions, maybe don't say that they're incorrect, but say that, okay, so that's reflected in British National Corpus data. Right, so yeah, can I continue to the next slide? Just let me know from the chat box, or if you think that I'm too fast, want to repeat few points, you can say so, okay, no worries. Right, so on this slide, I want to talk about some areas of interest in corpus linguistics. So this is particularly important because there are so many different interests in doing corpus studies, and you don't have to do all. You can just specialize on one interest, on one field. You don't have to be able to do everything, okay? So some people specialize on corpus constructions. Mostly they are linguists, so they design the parameter for obtaining corpus data. Like for British National Corpus, the corpus must be obtained from monolingual British speakers. So if I want to contribute my sample of language to that project, I can't, because first of all, I'm not native English speakers, and more precisely British, and also speak other languages. And also, if some other British speakers who speak other languages, they cannot contribute to this project as well. While in different corpus construction project, it's very welcome. So for instance, even if it is a requirement. So when I collect data for IGNALI project, so one of the requirement is that the contributor must be learners of English, okay? So mostly people who are interested in corpus constructions are linguists. So the next field is corpus processing. So in corpus processing, you learn, you process the corpus data. So you have the corpus data, but you do some processings. For instance, how to get the data automatically. For example, we want to collect language data used in the blogs, which is informal text. And if you want to do it manually, it's going to take time. You copy paste, it's going to take time. You can do it quickly, but you'll need a lot of manpower to do that. So some people are interested in corpus processing. They create software or methods on how to collect such kind of data quickly, automatically. So you can just basically click a button and you'll get all the data that you want, okay? Which can be done in LangSbox, one of the software that I presented earlier in my earlier slide. Mostly people who are involved in this area, they are computer scientists or programmers, but there is a small number of linguists as well who have the capacity in programming or interest in that area, I think. Next is corpus data analysis or interpretation. So this is the area dominated by linguists, and also we have people from different fields as well, because corpus linguistics have been used, or are used by not only used by linguists, but also by social scientists, even people from the health domains, okay? So if you create a program that can help students learn a language better, if you study how language is used by certain group of speakers, if you study how language develops over time, if you study how the semantic of a linguistic element like prefix, suffix, infix change, differ, for example, from one corpus to the other, then you are in this area. Okay. Now, I have 3 studies, okay, and they are already published. One of them is presented, the product is presented by Pak Handoko earlier, Collocate. So from these 3 studies, according to the title, just from the title without looking at the content, which one or which ones do you think can instantly be used by students? Just write the number on the chat box. And let's take 1 minute to do that, okay? Feel free to write on the chat box. Or you can shout, unmute yourself, or maybe not allowed by the moderator. So yeah, just write on the chat box. Feel free to write just the number 1, number 2, or number 3. So number 1 is basically about corpus building, building a corpus data. And number 2 is about analyzing the query. Faizatul answered number 1, Tuti number 3, Uni number 3. Okay, let's wait for your answers. You can also choose more than 1 numbers. If you think all of them are useful, can instantly be used by students, just write number 1, 2, 3. If you think number 1 and 3 can be used instantly by students, just use 1 and 3. Okay, so we have Adi Yusuf number 3, and Apni number 3, Bima Purwa number 3. It's going fast. So most of the answers fall to number 3. So let's think about the questions first, because the question is not really clear, at least for me, okay? Which one can instantly be used by students? Which students? Okay, if you think about like end users, yeah, so like maybe high school students or undergraduate students, yeah, number 1, maybe it's not a good idea, yeah, particularly those who are not familiar with corpus data, because they need to learn how to index the corpus, not index, they need to learn how to query the corpus. Because in order to query the corpus, you need some sort of expressions, formula, which might differ from natural or authentic language. Okay. Number 2 is debatable. Maybe it's useful, maybe it's not. Okay. So if you want to know how to query, how to write a query, query is like when you write keyword on Google. Okay. Then it might be useful. Okay. And if you're a PhD student, I think number 1 can be useful as well, particularly, and it can instantly be used, particularly if you're interested in spoken language data, particularly by foreign language data learners. Number 3, if you just need to give an exercise on how to write better in English, without having the students know that these are based on corpus data, then number 3 is actually the right answers, okay? So all of the answers in the chat box are correct, I think. It may be correct, yeah, it may be incorrect and may be correct, depending on how you interpret my questions. So that's the beauty of Corpus Linguistics. There are not so many standards. In fact, there are not many theories in Corpus Linguistics. Most of the research are based on best practices, not on theories. We can talk about the differences between theories and best practices on some other times, but let's think of, let's call it enough here on this slide. And let's move on to the next slide. Now I want you to think about the difference between husk rice and cooked rice. So I have to use the term cooked rice because I read in English, because in Indonesian, those three concepts are represented by three different vocabularies. But in the English, rice can refer to rice which is not cooked yet, or cooked rice. These are three different entities which differs on the extent of how they are processed. Okay, so cooked rice can be eaten directly. For rice, you need to cook them first. You need to put it on rice cooker. Okay, and husk, you need to peel the skin first. Okay, and using this analogy, I want you to think what kind of corpus data that you can give to your students. What kind, no, let me rephrase my question. What kind of corpus-based activities, language learning activities based on corpus data that you can give on your students, to your students? And feel free to write on the chat box, but I think the answers may vary. Yeah, because it also depends on the students, which level. If you think about giving rice to a child, maybe you are correct. Okay, give them rice, they can instantly eat it. Sorry, cook rice. But if you just give them rice, which is not cooked, then you need to give them some instruments and you need to teach them how to cook the rice. Well, even though it's just put it on the rice cooker, give some water and wait until the light turns yellow. Okay. But if you are a farmer, if your students are farmer and want to sell rice, then you need to give them instruments how to peel the husk. Okay, or you can just do it traditionally. Some answers on the chat. Let me have a look. Yeah, rice. Okay. Yeah, I have mentioned it to you that it depends on the level of competency of the students, right? And you can disagree with me, okay? So it's completely all right if you disagree with me or if you have other findings. In fact, I would be happy if you let me know your findings. So one of the widely used pedagogic applications is writing assistant. So collocate is one of the examples. So I'm happy that I don't use collocate in my presentation now. So like when Bu Wahyu contacted me for the first time and when I wrote my presentation slide for the first time, I was thinking of using collocate, but it turned out that at the last moment I decided to change the programs, the applications that I'm going to present, and I was going to present here, because I think that maybe not many people are aware with collocate, but many people are aware with Grammarly, and in fact, maybe you are one of the users in Grammarly. So raise your hand if you use Grammarly on the or say yes on the chat box, or you can write other writing assistant that you use, or you suggest to your students for use when they write English. Okay. So yeah, just raise hand if you used Grammarly, if you use other writing assistant, because Microsoft Word itself has some sort of writing assistant, I think. Right, so let's focus on Grammarly. So if you don't know it already, Grammarly is based on corpus data, on the corpus data. So let me give you an illustration. Let's say that I write I'm interested with T instead of D at the end. I'm interested about your offer. Okay. So this is incorrect in terms of spelling, and the collocations. Okay, so the collocation of interested is not about. And Grammarly seems to be aware of this, so we can have a look at the suggestions here. So it says, okay, interested, correct your spelling. Okay, and if you click on it, it's going to suggest interested with D. And then interested about, Yeah, the suggestion is to remove about and change into in. It seems that the preposition used might be incorrect here. Now, the question is, what's the role of a corpus for a writing assistant program? That's what we will discuss in the next slide. So, if you use Sketch Engine, one of the corpus processing software or program, you can build a word list. Okay, and then if you have the list of words, you can build a spell checker. So a spell checker is one of the programs incorporated to Grammarly, which is useful in checking the spelling. So if I write something wrong, like this, interested, then Grammarly will check on the word list. Is it available in the word list? So it turns out that interested is not found. Oh, by the way, can you see my pointer here? Moderator, can you see my pointer? Because
yes, yeah, it's clearly seen, sir.
During my presentation, sorry. Okay, I should have asked that the first time. Right, so I will repeat one more time. So based on corpus data, this time BMC, you can create a word list, and because this is based on monolingual speakers of English, most of the vocabularies are correctly spelled if we compare to learner corpus data. So what Grammarly do is they check on the word list that they have on their corpus, and then, oh, it's not there. So they are going to give this marker, this red underline here. And then they're going to write something on the suggestion box. So the markup is red, underline, and the prompt is correct your spelling. And based on the similarity test, whose algorithm is actually pretty easy, but one of the parameters is the number of letters. So interested with T is 10 letters. Yeah, it's composed of 10 letters. And interested with D is also composed of 10 letters, and the frequency is quite high. So these are words whose lemma are interest. Sorry. So we see interest with S, interesting, interested, interestingly, of interest, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So the closest one, the most similar one based on their similarity check is interested here. So that's why they suggest change T into D. Okay, so problem solved. So let's have a look at the next problem, which is the collocation problem. So if you're confused about collocation, just think of this as one word that can occur with another word. Okay, so for instance, in Indonesian, the word senonoh, yeah, senonoh, highly collocates with tidak. Yeah, so I don't know if someone say iya senonoh. So most of the Indonesian speaker will say tidak senonoh instead of iya senonoh. So there is an interesting forensic forensic linguistic case about that, which is the trial of Ahok, the former governor of Jakarta. And we can discuss that some other time, but yeah, I'm happy to discuss that with you. But I think Ahok is linguistically interesting speaker because he managed to identify a collocation in that trial, even though he is not a linguist. Okay, let's save that for another presentation about forensic linguistics. So the incorrect phrase or the incorrect strings is interested about, and Grammarly suggests that we change that into interested in. So what happened on the background using corpus data? Let's have a look here. So I have mentioned to you that Sketch Engine can derive a word list, but Sketch Engine can also derive n-grams. What is n-gram? Oh, by the way, if you hear some noises, I have to apologize because I stream this from my bedroom and next to my house, yeah, on both sides. My neighbors are renovating their houses. So if you hear some noises, then yeah, apologize in the first place. Let's get back to this. This is n-gram, list of n-grams. What is n-gram? So word list displays list of words individually, while n-grams displays words in sequence of 2. Well, it can be 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Okay, but for writing assistant, usually most software use bigram, which is sequence of 2 words, or trigrams. So you can download this. So we see of the, in the, to the, blah, 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 blah. And there you go. We have interested in. The way how it works is pretty similar to what I have described in my previous slide. So grammarly check whether there are sequence of 2 words that it doesn't find in the database of n-grams. And because of it's not present, then yeah, it tries to find the most similar sequence, which is interested in, and that what is suggested by Grammarly here. Okay. Right. So this is just in. I think yesterday, so Sketch Engine posted on Facebook that they can also produce trigrams. Okay, and this is used for text prediction, like what we have on our mobile phone or emails. Okay, if you use Google, perhaps you are quite familiar with this. This is not a pedagogic applications, but yeah, I'm just throwing this here just to let you know that a lot of applications out there are based on corpus data. So it's not abstract. It's something real that you can already use. Now, I think I have only 5 minutes, little less than 5 minutes to do this activity. I usually invite the participants to do this. This is an activity that I usually do in a workshop, but for a seminar like this, I think I don't have much time, or maybe I talk too much in my previous slides. Yeah, sorry for that. Apologize. So, just in case you want to try, click this website and then use these login details, account solo, password Corpus Lab. In fact, I'm going to just write here. So you can Google CQ Web Lancaster and use solo as the login detail, and Corpus Lab as the password. Okay, so we are going to create some corpus-based testing items. So I invite you to go along with me. If you find it too fast, don't worry. You can just do it yourself some other times. With this password, I'm not going to remove it, maybe for a week or so. Yeah. So we have 5 steps here, which you can review later. Okay. So let's say that we are going to create some corpus-based testing items. Yeah. And we focus on prepositions use. And we focus on the high-level learners. Let's say final year undergraduate English students. So I'm going to turn off my presentation slide. So let's switch to CKP Web. So this is CKP Web. In fact, I'm just going to log out. So if you manage to get the details of the CKP Web correctly, you're going to use this address and then enter your login detail, solo Corpus Lab. I'm going to use mine and then login. Then you are going to see this. Okay, So what you have to do is to navigate down there, here, to CKP Web main menu. Right? Okay, so I'm going to stop here, just in case people are following or try to do by themselves on their computer. But if not, don't worry, you can just follow me, follow my demonstration here. So CKP Web host or index Corpora in different languages, Indonesian, English, Arabic, Assamese. So if you don't know, Assamese is one of the language used in India. Okay, so lots of it. But for now, for this purpose of presentation, we're going to use British National Corpus. Okay. So what the next step is to find all prepositions. So this is the implementation of a corpus which have been annotated using corpus data. So if you remember my slide, one of my slides earlier, one of the optional elements of a corpus data is the annotation. It is not obligatory, it's optional, so you can have a raw corpus that is unannotated. But yeah, here, BMC is annotated. So what you need to find is the code for prepositions. And the code is available here on TagSet. Okay, one more time. Find the code here. You can just click on it. And this is the list of codes. We see the description here, but these are the codes that we are interested in. And let's find preposition. Okay, preposition, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so we see two codes here, PRF and PRP. Okay, so there are two codes of prepositions. One is PRF, the other is PRP. Okay. Right, so I'm going to write the code which refers to these two codes. Okay, bear with me. PR plus. So write underscore PR and then plus. I'm going to paste it on the chat box so you can see. You can just copy paste. You don't have to write like me. You can just copy paste. If this is not visible, make it bigger like this. Okay. So can I continue? And my answer is yes. I hope you agree with me.
Yes, sir. Take your time, please, Mr. Pri.
So if you are at this stage already, you can just click Start Query, or you can just press Enter. Now you have this. So this is called concordance, yeah, concordance lines to be more precise. So you have the list of prepositions here, and you have the context, left and right context. Wait, let me see. Okay, not that one. Sorry. So I was just wondering if someone WhatsApp me, and it might be the committee of this seminar. Like, okay, yeah, let's get back here. So we see that we have 224,000 blah 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 concordance lines. We don't want them all, so let's thin them. So yeah, thin means randomly take the concordance lines as you wish. Okay, so I want to extract just 10 lines. 10 lines, because I just want to make 10 exercise items. And here, just write 10, okay? And then click thin this query, okay? Okay, and then click thin this query, okay? Right, so we see that we have only 10 concordance lines here. Okay, if it is a workshop, of course, we will have more time to do this, yeah? But I will just repeat one more time, okay? So these are the concordance lines, still 224, blah, 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 okay? More than 200,000. Click here, choose action, click think, and then enter the concordance lines numbers, any number that you want, and then think this query. And then download this, okay? And once you download, you can remove this, yeah, and modify the left and right context, and perhaps it will look like this. Fill out the blanks with correct prepositions, okay? So the benefit of using this approach is that you use authentic language data. You don't use made-up sentence, hypothetical sentences, okay? And then another benefit is that you can also teach the culture, British culture. So for instance, here we have SAS. What is SAS? Okay, so feel free to browse that, okay? And then you can explain this to your students. So imagine that if all of the sentences that you teach to your students contain proper names only in Indonesia, like Borobudur, Prambanan, Budi, Muhammad, Ahmad, and so on and so forth. It's not that it's incorrect, but when you use sentences from authentic, from British National Corpus to be more precise, then you are going to get culture-specific vocabularies, okay? Like SAS, what else, KBS, okay? Feel free in Hollywood. So not only that you teach language, you can really teach culture, okay? And it seems that I take too much time, okay? So feel free to contact me if you have any issues using that. These are some aspects to consider. I highlighted them in separate slides that I have presented earlier. I will just skip this. This is the analogy that I've presented earlier. And yeah, thank you for staying along with me in this presentation, particularly to Ibu Wahyu, my main contact representing UIN Surabaya, and also in cooperation with Devlin. So it's an honor to get invited to talk in this conference. So back to the moderator now.
Yeah, thank you, Bapak Prihantoro, for having a wonderful and applicable insight. Your detailed explanation has challenged us to think deeper about identifying topics and contents available in Corpus Linguistics, sir. Well, what I have taken some notes here, the aspects to consider in corpora data and their pedagogic applications are the aims. Yeah, we need to set down the target audience, the tools, the access to corpora, and then the types of corpus, and then the procedure. Yes, Bapak Prihantoro has described the potential of pedagogical corpus applications and to provide ideas on what can be done to foster direct and indirect corpus use in teaching and learning, as well as to bring corpora and corpus tools to a larger group of learners and teachers too, of course, yes. If we take up some of the ideas mentioned here and we are successful in improving communication among the application of corpora in the classroom, it gives a positive impact on the students as it revives their interest and also motivation in the process of learning, yes. And then in classifying the pedagogical corpus applications, that is the use of corpus tools and methods in a language teaching and learning, and also in language learning context, a useful distinction can be made between direct and indirect applications. Yeah, thank you again, Mr. Pri. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, rahimakumullah, it's getting warmer, yes. Let's talk further about it. We have a little more time to answer your questions. We would love to hear from you, so please ask questions orally by a hand raise or drop your questions in the chat box. During this Q&A session, I'd like to have the first 3 questions from the participants. And please ask questions by typing your name, hyphen your institution, hyphen your question. For your information, door prizes are awarded for selected participants with interesting questions during the discussions today. Please. All right, so I have already had one question here. The first question comes from Bu Ayendi from IKB UNP Padang, addressed to Mr. Suhandoko. The question is, what are the roles of teachers or lecturers in the class when using DDL? Are you ready to answer it, Pak Suhandoko?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much, Bu Kania, for reading the question.
Yes,
and also
welcome.
thank you very much for Bu, I forgot the name, sorry.
Bu Ayendi.
Bu Ayendi for the question, yes. So dealing with the teachers' roles in the use of DDL in the classroom, I can think of 2 roles, 2 main important roles for teachers that they can play in using DDL in the classroom. The first is about the technical roles that the teachers should play. Technicals here doesn't mean that the teachers should provide the laptop or everything that they physically needed to use the DDL, but technical roles here means that the teachers should invest a lot of time and energy to train the learners to get familiar with the DDL supports, especially because either which you use, whether you use hands-off DDL or hands-on DDL, of course you need to make sure that your students are familiar with using the DDL in the classroom. One of the ways is that you need to invest your time and energy to introduce your students to these DDL supports. Yeah, because different DDL supports will have a different look and appearance, and they have different features. And you need to make sure that your students understand the differences and which applications that can be appropriate for those students. Yeah, if for example in academic writing, I myself prefer the students to use the collocate because it is much faster. Yeah, so while they are writing, they can have instant suggestions from collocate. But if they are if they want to do something a little bit more challenging, yeah, you can use a sketch engine for their DDL in the classroom. But yes, teachers need to invest a lot of time to train the students to get familiar with the interface and how to use the supports. That's for the technical roles that the teachers should play. And actually, I think that most of the DDL supports provided are that is no need to install, especially and Kong and so on. They need to install, but I don't think that learners will be able to use it effectively, yes, because especially it is very useful for researchers. But for using the collocate, I think it's very useful for the students, and they can just use their smartphone. Yeah, I believe that students have smartphone in nowadays online learning, so they can use smartphone, and teachers can train them how to use that TTL supports. The second is a non-technical. So this is, I think, a little bit more challenging because it deals with the strategy in using the DDL. Because when using the DDL, they are provided with lots of suggestions and alternatives. Yeah? And that's why teacher must teach the strategic way and to make the students smart enough in picking which collocations, for example, which word, which concordance that appropriate for their writing, for example. So that's for non-technical. So it's more like the strategy in using the DDL. Yeah, that's my answer to Ayani's questions about the roles that teachers can play in using DDL in the classroom.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Suhandoko, for the clear answer. Yes, I'd like to ask Ibu Ayendi. Would you like to give some feedbacks, Ibu?
Sorry, I am Bapak.
Oh,
Bapak,
I'm sorry. Yeah, all right, Bapak Ayendi.
Thank you for the explanation. As we know, we use DDL for autonomous learning for students,
Yes.
Especially for learning of grammar or vocabulary. Of course, there will be pre-activity and post-activity. Now, I want to know for the pre-activity and the post-activity. Actually, for the while activity, students try to search by themselves. Okay, how do you think, Pak Suhandoko? Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much, Pak Ayendi, for the questions about using DDL, especially for teaching grammar or maybe teaching vocabulary. So teaching vocabulary and grammar is not really my thing, actually, because I usually teach for academic writing or essay writing. But I took an inspiration actually from Pak Pri, actually, that Pak Pri used by using games, for example, when teaching prepositions. So we can take the authentic language from the DDL, and then we can have the students maybe a short quiz, yeah, for the pre-activity. So we can just delete all the preposition, just what like Pak Pri has just shown us before. So I think that it can be some kind of activity for the students about, oh, that way how to use DDL actually. So later I can imitate that in my WISE activity for learning the vocabulary. So yeah, I think one inspiration that I could take from Pak Pri about the pre-activity for teaching, for example, grammar that Pak Pri has already showed us. Yeah. Yeah, I think that I can answer
Okay.
Pak Ayendi.
Thank you, Mr. Sandoko.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Ayendi and Pak Suhandoko. Now we have Ibu Jumharia Jamerang from UIN Makassar. Yeah, Ibu Jumharia, please unmute, Ibu.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. Okay. Again, yeah, thank you very much for my opportunity to give some comment, yeah, respond to the presentation that we have just listened to just now. Okay. I'm so sorry that I have just joined the seminar rather lately because I have also some schedule in our department. So I missed some part of the presentation. I have just catch what Pak Pri Hantoro has presented, yeah, and I'm interested in the material from Pak Pri that talks about Corpus Linguistics. Yeah, I think it's in my opinion, this term still strange, especially for the English learners in university levels. Yeah, as one. So if you don't mind, would you again explain to me, to us, yeah, all the students that who participated in this seminar, how could we access the application if I'm not mistaken, NBC or
CKP web.
Yeah,
sure. I'll be happy to.
Okay. Yeah, would you like to show us how to access them? Yeah, I think that's just all my response, my question. Thank you very much, Bu Kenia. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Ibu Jumharia, for your kind response. All right, so Mr. Pri, would you like to answer it directly?
Yeah, no problem. So let's say that you are now on Google. Okay, so you're on Google now. So the name of the program, sorry, my background is black. Make it better than white. So just write CPP Web Lancaster. Okay. Ibu, are you following? Well, I hope you are. And then just click search here. And then on the top, you're going to see this. Yeah, so I'm logged in already, but if not, yeah, you need to enter your login details. Okay, use the login details that I gave you earlier. If you want to follow this demonstration, use Solo here as your username and Corpus Lab here. And then click login. Okay, Ibu, you there?
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Should I move on or can I move on?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
just continue, sir.
Yes, click log in here.
Yeah. Yeah, if
Okay.
you don't mind, I take record it too.
Oh, record. Oh, yeah, sure. That would work too. That would work too. Okay.
Yeah.
And then go to CKP Web main menu here on the down left corner. And then you're going to see this interface, this home interface of CKP Web. Then choose one of the corpus that you want to use. And I'm going to use this opportunity to answer the question from Satria from Polytechnic Negeri Batang, who asked about Indonesian corpora, comparable or parallel corpus. So in Sketch Engine, you can use Opus corpus, OPUS. But in CKP Web, I index a parallel corpora, Indonesian and English. And this corpus has been published and widely available for public. And the title of the corpus is BPPT PAN. Okay, here. So I'm going to just give the link on the chat box. So BPPT Pan Indonesian is a parallel corpus. There are two corpora, BPPT Pan Indonesian and BPPT Pan English. So for instance, you want to study the translation from Indonesian to English, then you need to use BPPT Pan, apologize. Yeah, you need to use this corpus. But if you use, because if you want to study the translation, yeah, from English to Indonesian, yeah, then this is the corpus that you need to use. So now let's get back to the Indonesian corpus. Yes, here, click show text from parallel corpus. Yeah, and then write your query here. For instance, I don't know. Yeah, so we see the concordance focus on the word latihan, and this is the translation for each line. So this is the segment in Indonesian, and this is the segment in English. So you can download this and study the data. And just in case you want to access English corpora or other corpora, it's pretty much the same. So get back to this. Previously, I used British National Corpus, Symbol Edition. Okay, so click on it. And then write your query. So the queries may vary. You can write simple query, like you can write any word, like interest. Okay, and you'll get the concordance lines focusing on the word interest. Or you can do lemma search. Okay, so here we see interest, and if you click on frequency breakdown, then you're going to see interest, interested, interesting. Okay, so those are some of the queries query techniques. This is the one that I used earlier, PR plus _ PR plus, to extract all prepositions. So in a workshop held by Masyarakat Linguistik Indonesia last week, I think, I focused on teaching the participants how to write a query, and someone else teach the participants how to interpret these results. Okay. Right. So in case you are interested in seeing tutorial videos, you can go to YouTube and type Indonesia Corpus Lab, and then this is my YouTube channel. So you see here, there are a lot of tutorial videos how to use Lightsbox. Most of them are in Indonesian. Okay, there are some in English, but mostly are in Indonesian. Of course, it doesn't really matter for you. You can just study this and apply to English corpus data. And here is the tutorial on using corpus, parallel corpus in CQB Web. You can just click on it. And yeah, you can watch it over and over. Right. Does that answer your question, Bu? Or your request, as well as Satria's question?
Yeah, Ibu Jumharia, would you like to give any feedbacks?
I know this is too fast, I think. It should be a workshop.
Yeah. It's very interesting application actually, but you know that it's rather complicated. If you just ask me for just more than 5 minutes, we need 1 day workshop to learn about the application.
But the most important
if you
thing
don't
is
mind,
not to understand the technical details. The most important thing is to select what kind of instructions that you give to your students and how to make the corpora data meaningful. So for instance, as a pre-activity to my students, before I give them that exercise, I can ask them, what do you think is the preposition for interested? What do you think is the preposition for, like, I don't know, look? What is the difference between look into and look for?
Look for and
or
look at.
You can just give them yes no question. Is look about correct or not? Can you make a sentence using it? So they are going to create sentences, and then you show on using corpus available on CQB Web or other corporate services. Okay, so this is what happens with authentic language data. You don't even need to tell them that this is a corpus. You can just tell them, okay, this is a data, authentic data from language users. And then if they are interested enough, you can tell, oh, so what you have seen is a corpus. It's called a corpus. But what matters the most is for the students is how they can learn language. They don't need to be able to master the technical details. Okay, so that's why in my presentation, I make an analogy of husk rice and cooked rice. You can just give cooked rice to the students. You can just give the exercise without them knowing it's a corpus data. Okay, but for some high-level students, of course, it will be interesting to be a detective, as Pak Suhandoko said. This is the corpus. This is the instructions. Feel free to retrieve any expressions in the corpus and let me know the findings. That will work for high-level students, but it will not work for all.
Okay.
For PhD students, the exercise must be a little bit more difficult, I think.
And I'm sure that the students will be very interested in this application.
Indeed,
even for me, because we still do some research and we have to write in English to fulfill the corpus. Okay, thank you very much, Pak Prihantoro. Thank you for moderator, Ibu Kenya.
Yeah, my pleasure, Ibu Jumharia. Thank you, Mr. Prihantoro. That was the second question related to Ibu Jumharia's question, from Mr. Satria from Politeknik Negeri Batam. asking, are there any recommendation for corpora of Bahasa Indonesia or something comparable or parallel corpus? Yeah, and translation studies can benefit much from these. So I'd like to ask Mr. Satria, would you like to give any feedbacks, sir?
I find that very helpful. I think I would like to try that first. So thank you for the very detailed information. That's from me.
All right. Yeah, thank you for the response, Mr. Satria. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, let's break down our understanding. Yes, we already have another question waiting in the list. Please ask your question in chat if you would like to join our discussion, or please unmute directly to discuss more things here. All right, so Mr. Prihantoro, you've got another question from Tuti Handayani from UIN Jakarta. Ibu Tuti, yeah, I have a question to Pak Pri. I'm such an honor student of you, Undip 2009. My question is, do you think the tools you mentioned earlier are recommended to be utilized in comparative research? For example, the comparative research of suffix nominalization in Indonesian and English? Yeah, it's written directly in the chat box for everyone. Yeah, Mr. Pri, are you ready to answer Ibu Tuti's question? Yeah, all right.
Thank you very much. Sorry. To answer that, I think it will be easier if I share my screen. I answer that shortly in my my chat box. Well, let me share my screen. Right. So the question is, do you think the tools mentioned earlier are going to be utilized in comparative research, for example, in comparative research of suffix nominalization in English and English? I think it would be helpful if the corpora, yeah, that you want to study have been annotated with the feature that you are looking for. So for instance, here, you're looking for nominalization suffix in Indonesian and in English. You can compare them, yeah, but first, it will be useful if you can find a corpus that has that kind of annotation. And Languages has that kind of annotation. I don't know if I have enough time, so let me load corpus data using Languages. Sorry. So this is the interface of Languages. So what you have to do the first time is that you have to upload the corpus. So I'm just going to use just one text press report so that it's not going to take time. And Languages can analyze Indonesian language. So I created Indonesian language supports for Languages. But the feature I need to improve more. Yeah. So right now, there is no lemmatization and there is no features like nominalization that you're looking for. But yeah, in the future, I'm hoping to be able to create those features. So if you see here that we are in this corpus, in this English corpus, and you can write nominalization and then click search. Okay, and then you get the data that you want. Of course, you need to download the data if you want to have it offline. And then you can do the same with Indonesian data and compare them. Yeah. Of course, to answer your question, I need more details, like why do you want to do that research? What kind of procedures that you have in mind now? And I can suggest you how corpus data can assist you in one way or another. Okay, so that's my demonstration as an answer to your question. Sorry that I don't give you theoretical answers.
Thank you very much, Pak Pri. It's very helpful for me. I will explore more about the tools. Thank you very much.
No worries.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Mr. Pri, for the thoughtful answers. Yeah, also the demonstration too. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, is there any other of you would like to ask another question? Oh, this one. Ibu Professor Zuliati Rohmah, Prof. Zul, would you like to give some responses or any feedbacks, or would you like to give your thoughts too, according to our today's discussion here? Yeah, Professor Zuliati. Yeah, hello, Professor Zuliati.
Hello, Bu Kenia.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, great. And also about Teflin,
Okay.
since some participants have been asking about it.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to introduce a little bit about TEFLIN. So TEFLIN is an association for teachers of English as a foreign language in Indonesia. I think for a lot of and yeah, it's
I'm sorry, Prof. Zuliati. I believe that there's a signal problem, yes. The voice, I'm sorry, Professor Zuliati, your voice is lagging. So I hope that, or you could, hello, Professor Zuliati? Yeah. Would you like to type it in the chat box, Prof. Zul? So then I would
there is also
read it out.
That university or institution or their lecturers or teachers. So let me share. Is it okay, Bu Kenia, to share? This is a kind of edaran, yeah. Is it okay, Bu Kenia?
Yeah. Yes. Would you like to share it, please? Share this, Prof. Zul.
Hello, is it clear? My voice can be heard?
Yeah. Now it's quite clear. It's quite good. Yeah, and also the presentation, it's clearly seen here.
Yeah. So this is a letter from TEFLIN actually. So actually, it can be like this for future membership. For 1 year, it's only 50,000, and then for 3 years, just 1,000. 3 years, 20,000. If you want the life members for TEFLIN, then it's only 300,000 rupiah, and then it means that you are a member for the whole life. But for year 1,000, 3 years, 200,000.
Yeah.
5,000 rupiah. And then it is for institution membership. Yeah. So it is 5,000. Sorry, 5 years only 900,000 rupiah. So if it is not clear for you, please just email to the mail address, the mailing address that I have already mentioned in the chat box, secretariat@teflin.org. I think that is about TEFLIN, yeah. So this is the email of TEFLIN. You can just email this, and then they will register you as the members of TEFLIN. If you register as a group or institution, then there is a, what do you call it? Let me open it. There is form that you can fill in, and then you can later TEFLIN, then you also, I think that all TEFLIN. Yeah, and then seminar, I think it is very inspiring seminar, especially from Professor Yazid and then from Pak Suhandoko and also Pak Pri. So I'm very thankful to the three of the speakers. And I think it's very interesting, very motivating. And many of you, I think, want to have more. So I think like Bu Jumharia and also other institutions can have more comprehensive and more detailed, not only half-day seminar like today, but maybe next time can be 3 days workshop or maybe longer than that. It will be very helpful. This is still many possibility of learning more about corpus linguistic, and yeah, this is very interesting area. I think that's all, Bu Kenya. Again, thank you very much, Prof. Yazid, Pak Handoko, and also Pak Pri. We learned a lot from all of you today. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yeah, thank you, Professor Zuliati. That is a brief explanation about TEFLIN for dear participants. Yes, if you are interested in joining and also following all the events held by TEFLIN, so please send the email as it was informed. All right, so it looks like we've answered all your questions, ladies and gentlemen. And I'd like to announce the 3 lucky participants to get the door prize, also chosen by the presenters today. The first is Mr. Ayendi, the second is Ibu Jumharia, and then the third is Ibu Tuti. Yeah, so please kindly send me your handphone numbers. Yeah, so I would like to save it to refer it to the committee for the door prize. All right, so now we've gone into detail from the morning up to the duhur time now. Bapak Suhandoko, Professor Yazid Bastomi, and Bapak Prihantoro, are there anything else you would like to mention as a closing statement maybe? Yes, maybe I'd like to ask Professor Yazid first. Yes, Professor Yazid, would you like to give any closing statements? Oh yeah, Professor Yazid.
Well, thank you, Bu Kenya.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have any actually. Well, my position was the opening speaker, and the detail was taken up by Pak Sandoko and Pak Pri. Well, what I can say is that all the participants can explore further the details of this area of corpus linguistics, and I think the success will be on your patience in exploring features around corpus linguistics, because that's going to be quite digital, and those people who are patient with the digital world then will tend to be successful. Thank you very much, Bu Kenya. Over back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Yazid. That's quite impressive. And Mr. Suhandoko, please.
Okay, thank you. I think that is because it's Adhan here already, so I cannot say much about it. Okay, thank you very much, Bu Kenya.
Yeah, all right. Thank you, Pak Handoko. All right, and the last one, Pak Prihantoro, would you like to give the closing statement? Yes.
Yeah, I have 2 points actually. So the first one is corpus linguistic approaches may help you for language learning or language teaching to different extents. Some of you might find it extremely helpful, but some of you might find it a little helpful maybe, but some of you might find it unhelpful at all. And it's free for you to think about that. But if you think that this is not helpful, then don't throw it away, keep it on your folder. At some point of time in the future, maybe you will find it helpful. Yeah, that's number 1. And number 2, I know that what I have presented today, particularly my presentation, perhaps looks really complex because there are a lot of details about using software. But the most important thing about software is not how to operate those softwares, but how to make it meaningful to the students. So if there are other softwares that you think more useful, other corpus-based software that are more useful for you to teach language to your students, then feel free to use that. And also, the good thing about corpus linguistic approach, which incorporate to some extent the use of programs, is that you can try it yourself at home. Okay, so after this session, feel free to have some hands-on experience. Feel free to browse Google, check the manuals, and if you have problems, feel free to consult the manuals, check on YouTube videos, yeah, and feel free to contact me. And unlike other approaches where you need to read books, well, you need to read books as well if you want to understand corpus linguistic, but you need also to get some hands-on experience on using the software. In that way, you can feel what students feel. If you just give the students directly the programs, you will not understand how difficult for them to use the software. But if you know how to use the software, then you can expect the difficulties they encounter and incorporate this to your instructions so that it will be helpful to the students. That's it. I think I talked too much, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. So yeah, thank you, Mr. Pri. Yeah, it looks like we have covered everything. Yes, Bapak and Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, the three considerable presenters have shaped our academic horizon, specifically in this Corpus Linguistics. MashaAllah, ya, Alhamdulillah. We finally come to the end of this virtual national seminar. Now we need to make some important announcements. If by any chances you miss on some important points, worry not, as we will give you a copy of the national seminar right after. Okay, a recorded version of this national seminar will be available. Before the seminar ends, you are required to complete the attendance form. So once you complete the attendance form, an e-certificate will be sent automatically to your email. The attendance form will be valid until 1 p.m. today. All right, using Gmail or email affiliated to your institutions are strongly recommended for a quick certificate delivery. All confirmed attendees will be awarded the e-certificate. However, only TEFLIN members are entitled to receive more information about this event and also a TEFLIN membership. All right, so now, thank you for attending this virtual national seminar, Bapak and Ibu. I hope that every one of you got a lot of insights, yeah, and barokah benefits, yeah, for every one of us, yeah. Amin. And before I close it, I would like to thank anonymously to the speakers for the informative and interesting presentations. Also to the participants for very active, enthusiastic participants. Yes. All right. So now, big sorry if I was not able to answer all the questions. Yeah, but rest assured that we will email you the materials or send you directly through the chat box. Yes. And thank you for participating in today's national seminar. So I'm gonna close it directly. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you all for your time, and thank you immensely Bapak Suhandoko, Professor Yasid Bastomi, and Bapak Prihantoro. Yeah, your presentations are quite engaging. Yes. All right.
Thank you, Bukania.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Pak Pri.
Thank you.
Terima kasih
Pak Handoko.
Pak Yazid.
Yeah, the pleasure is mine.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Bukania. Thank you.
Sampai jumpa. Thank you.
Yeah, my
Thank you,
pleasure.
Pak Yazid.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi
All the
wabarakatuh.
participants.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Thank you
wabarakatuh.
very much. Thank you.